the criticism and the hypocrisy. You don't want to be a hypocrite at work. Just don't be a hypocrite. Just talk to people from where you're at and just be real with them and be like, I've made that mistake before, or I probably would have done that if I were in your shoes. But from now on, let's make sure we're doing things the right way so that we don't get in trouble, or just make it real. And leading by example is also about apologizing when you're wrong, because that's what you'd want someone to do when you're criticizing them or when you're coaching them. That's the word we use at work. When you're coaching someone, what kind of response do you want them to have? Do you want them to lash out at you? Do you want them to attack you? Or do you want them to simply take glow and say, you know what, you're right, I didn't know, won't happen again? So leading by example in deed and in demeanor is the most effective way to be efficient at work. See, what people don't realize is this is about efficiency as well. If you are a doctor and you have no bedside manner, but you're excellent at your skill and at your craft, that's cool. That's good. That means that you're efficient. But what's happening now in the corporate world, in the business world, in the media, and in social settings in general, what's happening is that people want kindness with their efficiency. They don't just want efficiency. They don't want cold efficiency, should I say. They want warm efficiency. They don't want cold calls. They want warm calls. And people are looking for that from their employers. They're looking for that from their leaders. They're looking for that in managers that they hire, because the world is coming out of the emotional dark age that we've been in for the last 300 to 500 years or so. We've been in a dark age where we have no clue what emotions are, what emotional needs are. And I have a podcast where I talk about what emotions are. If you haven't listened to that, you want to just go ahead and go back and listen to that, because we really don't understand emotions, but we want to start understanding them now, because we're awakening out of this dark age that we've been in. And this is what we're starting to demand more of now. And eventually, the evolutionary process is going to weed out those who do not adapt and do not develop more emotional intelligence. It's just as simple as that, guys. And number 5, it says they may put more consideration into business decisions. So if I'm thinking about a business decision, instead of just lying about it, or instead of just cutting the labor because I need to cut the labor and I need to cut costs, an emotionally intelligent person is going to think about all sides of the equation. Want to know an example of someone with no emotional intelligence? I was watching a CNN documentary about him last night. Steve Jobs, he had none. He had no emotional intelligence because he made decisions that did not take people into consideration. And he was infamous for his temper, for playing games, for being rude, for lying, for cutting costs. And don't get me wrong, Steve Jobs was a brilliant man, and no one will ever be able to replace what he contributed to the world and to our culture. But he was not emotionally intelligent because he hurt people. He stole from people. And when he was making business decisions, he did not take other people into consideration, and he was not considerate of other people's feelings. There's that word again. People's feelings. See, we work with other people. We do not only work with machines. Yes, we work with machines. Yes, we work with computers. Yes, we work with phones and wires and, all kinds of equipment that we need that make our lives better and make things easier for us. But at the end of the day, It's people that are going to be your customers, your consumers. They're going to be the people that are watching and listening to what it is that you have to say and what it is that you're doing. If you do not make yourself a likable person, it's going to be harder and harder and harder for you to attract and grow a customer base. Just as simple as that. And what I realize is that not only are we starving for people who are emotionally intelligent, we're also starving for people who are authentic and vulnerable. I have a podcast on authenticity, and I also have a podcast on vulnerability. Authenticity is the merging of your two selves, the merging of the self that you've rejected and that other people have rejected, and then your personality, which is the mask. So that's what authenticity is. It means you accept yourself for who you are, your demons, your shadow side, everything about you, the good side, the bad, the ugly. That's authenticity. And then vulnerability is in communication. You are being vulnerable when you say to someone, instead of lashing out at them, let's say I got into a car accident, somebody rear-ended me. I could get out of the car and I could yell and scream at them and say, you weren't paying attention because you were on your phone. You don't think about anybody but yourself. Or what I could really do is I could express how I'm really feeling, how my subconscious, how my 5-year-old child is feeling. And I can say, wow, that was really scary. When you ran into me, you made me feel like I was invisible and like I didn't matter. Because that's how you're really, really feeling. So what you're trying to do is whenever you lash out at someone and you yell at them and you blame them and you criticize them, what's happening there is your ego is trying to protect your subconscious mind. Your ego is like a bodyguard for your subconscious. I have a podcast about this where I go into detail about this. Your ego is like a bodyguard for your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is so impressionable and so sensitive and feeling all the time and never shuts off ever and believes every single thing that you say to it and that it hears. Your ego has to protect the subconscious mind. And your ego is the part of you that sees you as separate from the rest of the world. So whenever your ego gets inflamed and becomes enraged, it's because something is threatening that little baby, that little inner child that is your subconscious mind. So your ego flares up to protect the subconscious. So anytime you feel your ego flare up, that's how you know that there's something going on in you that makes you feel vulnerable. And that true vulnerability is expressing what it is that the ego is trying to protect and trying to conceal from the other person. So that's the definition of vulnerability. So I have podcasts on all these topics, guys. If you listen to my podcast from my website, you can find all of them in one place in the podcast section. So it's ccanomaly.wordpress.com. And if you can listen to my podcast, I'm going to start loading them up to YouTube. And I think I can start uploading them to Facebook. But on my Facebook page, go ahead and message me and let me know what topics you would like for me to talk about, what topics you would like for me to go deeper into and just put my own little spin on it. So just keep in mind, emotional intelligence is important at work. I encourage you to practice these techniques and see what it does for you. Have a great day.